This is the end of the beginning. Welcome to today's show. Burning Man, as I already covered, is obviously a very hot topic at the moment. Everybody seems to be looking at what's going on at Burning Man and raising questions, and a lot of people are alarmed by what's going on. And I think it's a great opportunity to look at a lot of the common themes going on at Burning Man. We could set aside the fact that this is a massive satanic event that happens every single year where it's just filled with all sorts of occult symbolism stuff, because we can set that to the side because we all know that. But for the dumbed down masses out there that don't believe any of that stuff, taking a look at what's happening at Burning Man right now is very, very similar to what life is going to look like very, very soon. And I'm not just talking about, a life like they're thinking where if we don't do something about the climate, it's going to end up like this. No. This is essentially what a 15-minute city is going to look like. Now, the difference is, of course, on the eyes. A 15-minute city is going to be presented as high-tech and cool and hip and futuristic. So people will be lured in that way. But essentially, they're both the same thing. And what's happening here, some could look at as an act of God. Some other people are looking at it as something done by design to create a distraction from everything going on in Maui, since the media won't cover that. And of course, a lot of people are saying, hey, maybe they're doing an experiment on these people to see how they can actually survive out in the middle of nowhere with no resources. So the common theme that you're seeing here is very, very, very similar to a smart city. It's very utopian. That's what the event's supposed to be, right? I love how they talk about their counterculture and things like that. The people who attend this, they're so dumbed down that they actually in their own mind act like they're rebellious and counterculture when this is something that is completely promoted by the mainstream. It's a mainstream event where wealthy people who want to be cool, go to this, and they don't realize that they're not being counterculture. They're actually going along with culture by going to something like this. This is just normal, disgusting behavior that we see every day in this world. But on top of those things, they talk about this event like it's a utopian type of thing where, it's so creative, it's artistic, and everybody there, is working together, uniting with one another. Well, that's what they tell you about these events. As I'll show you the news clip here about how this is looked at as a utopian event. Everybody there is there to love on one another and help each other. But it gets a little bit different when suddenly crap hits the fan and these people have to share resources and they don't have any resources to even share because they're out stuck in the middle of nowhere where there are no resources, kind of like in a smart city. And what's even more interesting is that you can't leave Burning Man right now and you can't get in Burning Man right now while they tell you to conserve. Does that sound familiar? Here's another look at what's going on over at Burning Man.
3 months worth of rain falling on the Nevada desert in just 3 days. What used to be sand has now turned to clay. And it's happening at a time when tens of thousands had descended onto Black Rock City for the Burning Man Festival. But not much would burn here. It's meant to be a sustainable festival in the heart of the Nevada desert, imagining what humanity could be like. No cash, no signal, and everyone's expected to share what they bring, creating a utopian community. But not this year. Instead, organisers urged attendees to conserve food and water as they brave the storm.
Normally, Burning Man is a lot of biking, and there's none of that happening because this stuff just sticks to everything. So everyone's walking around. We're calling it Walking Man.
One person has died during the course of the weekend, but it's not been confirmed if this was linked to the weather. The official advice was to stay put, and many obliged. Others, though, like DJ Diplo and comedian Chris Rock, walked 6 miles by foot before hitchhiking their way out.
If I could get a cold brew right now.
With traffic in and out of the sprawling grounds now halted and more rainfall expected, it's not clear when attendees will actually be able to leave.
Come alive, and the flame ignites.
Or if the culminating event, the ceremonial burning of the wooden man, will even go ahead. Shaman Freeman Powell, Sky News.
So you can't get in and you can't get out, kind of like a smart city. What people don't realize, you can't get in unless you're invited in or you go through some type. It'll be more security to get into one of these cities than there will be at the border, okay, to get into the country. And though I can guarantee you and promise you the type of security to exit, well, it'll be like out of a martial law movie. They'll be waiting there. You won't be going anywhere out of these cities. So look at some of the common themes we hear, right? Because this is all tied into the climate agenda in the 15-minute cities. Conservation, conserve, right? They're talking about how people need to conserve water. Well, in a smart city, you will be conserving water. So they're conditioning you here, right? You will be conserving water. You will not be showering every day. You will not be flushing toilets every day. So you'll be amongst the filth and the smells, right? The smells of your toilet after Taco Bell. And of course, the odor from your body from all the poisonous foods that they'll be giving you, which will be soylent products, of course, plant-based. So you'll be stinking up the joint on top of it. You won't be able to shower. And of course, you'll have a limit on how much water you can actually drink, even though you need it to survive, right? And then, of course, what else do we see at this event? Well, we hear rumors of Ebola. Now, they've mentioned this, and they're trying to use this now as a misinformation campaign where they're saying that anybody that is talking about Ebola is pushing misinformation. Well, obviously, we don't know what's going on the inside there. You can only go off of videos that people are uploading from the inside. But there was rumors of an Ebola outbreak. But there doesn't need to be rumors of an Ebola outbreak because we know that there's going to be probably bacterial infections and hypothermia and all sorts of foodborne illnesses will probably go on there because the food is clearly going to be contaminated. So, maybe people should be worrying about that. But very conveniently, right, that there is the rumors of an Ebola outbreak because they could just replace the word Ebola with something else that just occurred, which is planning on coming back in a couple of weeks. Actually, it's already here. I've been covering it over on my website, uprisingrevival.com. I highly recommend you check it out if you haven't, including even the singer from Metallica, who lost his voice on Friday and then was, of course, officially, we were notified on Saturday that he actually caught you-know-what because he couldn't have lost his voice from singing because they need to promote this again. So again, I'll cover that on the website. But just replace Ebola with, something that starts with a C and ends with the number 19. And then suddenly realize, wait a minute, okay, what if we did replace that? And then we're stuck in this area. We're all trapped. We're conserving. We can't go. We can't come. Nobody can come in. Nobody can leave. But it's a utopian society. Remember, this is what everybody's clamoring for, utopian society. Now, however long this lasts, that's what's going to be most interesting, how long it lasts, because it's raining again today, and it's going to get worse. People covered in mud, people are going to be getting sick. It's going to get worse. So the question is, how much longer will it take for these people who are all there promoting, because they're all, they all live in a reality that's pretty much a mirage, right? They all think that they're wonderful people. These are all the people that constantly pretend that they're all about love and equality. They yell at people like us because of our religious beliefs, our beliefs in what the Bible tells us. But wait until resources start running low. These are the same people that all talk about sharing and caring and wanting access to your kids and all that. Watch as resources run low. Let's see how these people who promote this utopian society, which cannot exist, even though they're trying to pretend they're like, we're all here, we're stuck here, and we're all working together. Just wait. Wait until we see how this social experiment, in a sense, continues to go for these people. Now you might say, well, what are you laughing about with this stuff? Well, anybody who's going out to this event, again, I don't feel sympathy for anybody out there who puts themselves in a really stupid situation. I don't care if this was a festival honoring Jesus in the middle of the desert with a bunch of Christian people. I would never put myself miles and miles into a desert with only my car and the water I bring with no resources around me, with the chance that there could be a monsoon or a flood and I could get stuck there, because that's just stupid. So when people do stupid things, well, they have to deal with the consequences, like I said earlier. So I'm just interested to see where this goes. Now, again, this story is a major distraction. The headline story should be on all these kids who are unaccounted for in Maui. The headline story should be that, the lead-in every day on the news. But instead, it's about Trump, it's about Biden, it's about the elections, and it's about now stuff like this that comes up. Instead of talking about how all these kids are no-shows, how they're done counting all the bodies over there, and it's only around 150 that they're reporting when there's thousands missing. Those should be the topics, and I'll continue covering that in much more detail this week. But I have to keep my eyes on this story because it's very, very interesting. Because again, when you look at the similarities between what they want with a smart city and what's happening in the middle of the desert where they're literally all stuck, it's like a social experiment where you can see how these people who all pretend like they're the greatest people on earth, they're all narcissists. So it's going to obviously get scary. And obviously the majority of these people who identify as Democrats go to these events, and the majority of them are psychopaths. They want really just sick things, but they always, they always prop themselves up as caring, loving, giving people. So when the resources run out, like they will in a smart city, because remember, in a smart city, you don't get resources. There's nowhere for you to go get water. If the power's off or anything else, you're relying fully on the government, who of course you could trust, right? We've seen how trustworthy our government is in the last couple of years. They're hiring more IRS agents to come after us. They're calling our own citizens terrorists, right? They're allowing people to cross the border and live freely on everybody else's tax money. I mean, that's how loving our government is. And of course, they'll freely give you one thing, and that's something that'll poison yourself. But other than that, they're very caring and loving of all. So in these smart cities, you will not be able to farm, okay? You will not be able to have access to water, and that's what they're dealing with right now. They don't have access to food or water, a very small amount. And then you mix in things like hypothermia, you mix in things like parasites and foodborne illnesses from contaminated food, and suddenly you start going, but maybe when we look at it from this perspective, these morons will probably look at it from the perspective of, well, in a smart city, we'll never have to worry about something like this. That's what they'll say. Because we won't get flooded out, and we won't have to worry about food because the government will come and give it to us and take care of us. Of course, we'll have to have the mark of the beast, but that'll be fine. That'll be fine. That's how they'll all think. So all of the posts out there that you see on social media talking about what's going on out there, and again, the words that you look at when you compare this to a smart city are conserve, conserve, conserve. No way in, no way out. Then you look at Ebola, and you start looking at everything going on in the world, the things that they want, which are you in these small cities all mushed together with all people around you, kind of like you see all these tents covered in mud up against one another. That's what it's going to be like. Just instead, of course, you'll be in a nice apartment building. You're like, oh, I'll be in an apartment building. We'll have roommates. We'll work in the same space. We'll all lose our minds because we never are allowed out of our cells. And, they'll shut our power off at 8 o'clock, just like in prison when they shut your lights off. They'll shut our water off after we hit a certain amount. So I'll only be able to shower once a week, flush the toilet once a week, drink a certain amount of water every day, and only eat the small portions of fake food that loads me up with estrogen that they'll give to me. Right? That's where we're all headed. And I mean, look, you could look at this any way you want. You could look at this event and say this is an act of God, because when I first see the event, that's exactly what I think. Obviously, you have to wait with it. I tell everybody that with every event, wait and see what the narrative is that comes out of it, because the narrative is what they want you to go along with, right? So if they come out of this and they're like, how everybody band together, all of them were stuck together and they couldn't come and they couldn't go and they had limited resources and they survived and they overcame and they all lived in a utopian thing. If that's the narrative that comes out of it, then that is a subliminal, in a sense, way to start prepping people to want to live in smart cities. How people can band together with limited resources, conserving resources, and not being allowed in or out. Those are all smart city themes. So if that's the narrative that comes of it, then you could look at this and say, well, this is something that they created. Okay, whether they use weather manipulation or not to flood the people out, or they just took an event where they saw rain and they decided, hey, no one's allowed in, nobody's allowed out. Or if it naturally occurs and they just take that narrative and use that narrative, then that's what they're prepping you for. We'll see what the narrative is. You always have to wait for the narrative that comes out of anything, even if this was an act of God, right? God is in control. So if this is an act of God and God, did this to the people, flooded this event out to all the wicked people for the disgusting things that they're doing there, not just, it's because it's more than just the stuff they show you. It's more than drugs and booze and then all the satanic artwork and stuff. There's stuff going on there that nobody's going to ever find out about, that nobody wants to know about, and they don't want you to know about, okay? So if it was an act of God, they could take these things and obviously mold and manipulate it for their narrative, but just look at it from that perspective. How can you not look at the themes that are coming out of there now with all of the topics like Ebola, coming in and leaving being restricted, not allowed, and how people are, everybody there, these are all people who went there for a utopian-like experience, and now they're getting it. They're getting a utopian-like survival experiment that they're involved in. And of course, when they come out of this, whoever comes out of it, they probably will use a narrative very similar to that. But for anyone out there that sees this, who's questioned smart cities, I know that they're going to look at this and be like, what is the smart city? It's people in tents in the middle of the desert. Well, they have this, this smart city is going to be visually appealing to people out there who like futuristic things, who have been conditioned through all these movies about, a futuristic society and no crime and, Minority Report type stuff. So it's not going to look like that, but it's essentially going to be the same thing because you're going to have no resources and you're going to have to conserve every single day. And for people out there that think that's a great thing, they've convinced you it's a great thing because they're telling you that we don't have enough water and we don't have enough this, when we really have an unlimited amount, and any of the issues that are happening with the environment are being caused by them deliberately. They're the ones draining the lakes. They're the ones who want to remove carbon out of the air so they could put it underground and they could grow food underground. This is all the stuff that they're doing right now. I'll make more videos about it if you want to see what they're doing underground with the farming and stuff they're doing underground. They need CO2 to farm. Plants can't grow without it. So they're taking it from us and doing it underground so that we can't farm up here. And literally, everything's going to probably look like it looks right now in Burning Man, outside of their smart cities. That's what they're trying to do, really. They're trying to destroy everything that God created here on Earth and build their smart city bubbles, which will likely be under bubbles, where everything's controlled, including the sun, right? We have sun simulation. We have blacking out of the sun, what China's been doing with the sun. I mean, this is all part of their plan. But you could look at this, what's happening there, not just as an experiment, but what the world will look like if they continue on with this plan that they have to remove carbon from the atmosphere. Because there won't be any resources for any of us. And that's exactly what they want to do. They're taking the resources from us, taking them for themselves, and then they want to herd you into places that'll be just like what you're seeing at Burning Man. Just it won't be muddy and it won't be all gross like that, but you'll be pretty much smelling just as bad as those people are right now. When you're inside of your apartment complex or whatever you're in, your little apartment cell with where your office and your toilet, you probably have a community bowl anyway. Nobody will be able to flush it. Probably have a community bowl on every floor to conserve water. You might have a community shower too. Yeah, like a prison. I'm pretty sure it'll be like that. You won't even have a bathroom in your own little thing. You'll have a studio apartment with a bed and a desk. You'll work, you'll sleep, you'll get an hour outside, and when you'll have a certain time where you could use the bathroom and use the shower, I'm sure. And it'll have to be once a week probably for that shower, so you'll smell, like I said, just like these people. It'll look not the same visually, but in reality, it'll be the same type of thing. I thank everyone for being here. Let me know what you think is actually going on at Burning Man. If you think it's an act of God, if you think it's a mixture of things, if you think this is an experiment, there's a lot of narratives out there. I could give you my opinion on what I'm seeing, but you don't know what their plan is until you see what comes of it. Because everything they do is to create a reaction. Everything they do, whatever narrative the media pushes after the fact, is the narrative. That is exactly what they were obviously trying to create. So you have to look at all these events and wait to see what happens. But at the same time, these events always do serve as major distractions from real issues, like the issues obviously in Maui that they continue to ignore in the mainstream media. I thank everyone again for being here. Hope you're all doing well. Hope to see you on the website, uprisingrevival.com. And please make sure you sub to my backup channels below. Thanks again, everybody. God bless all of you as always and your families.